Let's begin with updates on the End Bad Governance protest. As the protest enters day 10, the supposed last day of the demonstrations, some residents of Gaskia Dan Magaji area of Usasa in Zaria, Kaduna State, have raised fresh concerns and allegations against the Nigerian Army. The residents allege that apart from Ismail, whom the Nigerian Army confessed to have erroneously killed in Samaru, other persons escaped with their lives after being shot at by the soldiers. Among those who made these allegations include a grandmother located at number 88 Ungwan Fatika in Gaskia Dan Magaji area of Zaria. The residents also revealed that there were other persons who lost their lives from gunshot wounds. And joining us to give updates of all that transpired in the area is our correspondent Emmanuel Bagudu at Gaskia Dan Magaji in Zaria. Emmanuel, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon from Zaria. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you reported that not only Ismail Samaru in Zaria was allegedly shot and killed by a personnel of the Nigerian Army. Is there any available evidence to support the claim that others also suffered such a similar fate?
Yes, I have like tens of hundreds of evidences of people located at Gaskiada Magaji at the Wusasa area of Zaria, Kaduna State, who have confirmed to me that others were also shot. There are a lot of people who were shot and they died in hospital. And right now I'm in the residence of Balara Usmanu, located at 88 Angwan Fatika Street, Angwan Fatika in Gaskiada Magaji, who was shot. And then, of course, but residents rushed her to the hospital. And then, of course, the physician actually released, remove the bullet wound from her leg. So I'm here with her. There's a bullet with her, with the holding the bullet. Of course, we're going to speak to her. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mama, Gamana, tell abin da ya faru.
Ni dai ina zaune a can gurin da surukaina. Wannan tana nan ga yara haka. To muna zazzauna kawai sai na ji abu ya saukan mu. Ni ina ce ma jifa ne na ce musu duk ku tashi mu shiga ɗaki gashi an fara jifa. Miƙe wannan da zan yi tsaye kawai sai na ga jini ya ɓarke. Su ma sun ruɗe sun rasa inda za su shiga me za su sa su tare. Sannan aka je can satsan waccan surukar ta wata maza ta kwance ɗan kwalinta ta ɗaura gurin. Sannan aka je aka kira likitan ya zo ya duba. Ana ta yi ma sai aka ce ba shi ba ne. Ana ta wanke na rami fa ya shiga ciki.
Sai kafa aka ce aka ce aka ga ciki ko?
Sannan kuma
so what she's trying to say is that she just had a shot on her leg. She thought it was an ordinary stone until when she was bleeding all through. Until when she get to the nearest pharmacist, and then she discovered that this bullet was what was released from her leg.
Yeah. That's quite sad, I must say, Emmanuel. I'd like to find out, has any of the army authorities reacted to this allegation?
Yes, this is the last day of the protest, and we're just going a bit ahead of our normal business to cover the protest. And just to get what is, by the time we enter Zaria, the residents of, because Gaskiada Magaji is actually the entrance to Zaria. And then Samaru Zaria actually is the last entrance to Zaria from Kaduna State, because it connects to Giwa and then of course Katsina State. So they were surprised that they saw a story about Ismail Mohammed and who is located at Samaru spot in Zaria, and then their story was not reported. They have to block us to report these cases. That's the reason why we have to come here and also oblige them and tell them that actually we didn't know about their story. That's why we're here. So this bullet, this Gambo is holding, the Gambo confirmed to us that this bullet was actually removed from her leg. This is the injury she got. That's the injury. The bullet was removed from this particular injury. So this is the live ammunition. So it's just drop it on my leg, on my hand, sorry. Okay, so this is it. Yeah, this is it. Then of course, it was removed from this place.
Okay, Emmanuel, that's quite sad to see and say at this time, and we're actually hoping that she will feel better as soon as possible. But then I'd like to find out, as the Nigerian Army being activated to partake or to intervene in the end bad governance in the country, because one would wonder why they would actively get into these acts.
Yes. It's very important. That question is very important, very, very useful. Because the protest has not ended until 12 midnight today. After the protests have finished, at least by 12 midnight, we know that the 10 days later for this protest has ended. Then the aftermath of the protests, which is one of these which you just reported, is what we are going to approach the army to give their own side of the story.
We
but
definitely
of course,
need to know.
I can tell you for free that the people of Gaskiya Dan Magaji particularly stop us to tell their story, because they told us they have lost a lot of young men from the shootout on Monday, and we only reported that of Samu Zaria, which is Ismail Mohammed. So that is an allegation they are raising, and they said it's the only one reported that the army responded to, according to what they are saying. I have a lot of them that would like to speak to confirm to us that this is the situation. So
okay.
Gambo, can I magana? Gamba.
No.
Da ya mana abin da ya faru.
Abin da ya faru, na dawo daga an yi man waya lokacin na fita, so aka ce in zo ga matsala ya faru da mamanmu. Ina zuwa sai na zo na ga nan saman gwiwanta ya fashe. Aka ce ma ai harbi ne aka yi, na ce mata ko dai dutse ne yara suka jefo. Aka ce a ba dutse bane.
An ce ba dutse bane.
Ba dutse bane. Aka ce sojoji suka zo suka yi harbi, ya zo ya same ta. Shine sai na ce to bari mu tafi asibiti. Mun je ana dubawa, ana wankewa, ana tusa sizo cikin kafanta, yayi rami sosai. Sai aka ce a to ai akwai bullet ma a ciki. Sai muka ce to da Allah a yi mana aiki a cire. Shine na aka cire, ga yanzu ga bullet a hannunmu. Saboda haka nan mu kani ga Allah mu na roƙo dai.
Bullet din kenan?
Bullet ne wannan.
Bullet din kenan. Okay, just so he just said that he was just going about his normal business just within the community. He was told that one of his mothers were shot. And when he came, he said it cannot be a bullet. He just said it's not a stone. Because he got noticed there was blood flowing everywhere. They took her to nearby hospital. I discovered that this bullet was what is inside her body, and then of course they removed. He said he asked who shot. He was told that it were the soldiers that shot. Allegedly, we must still confirm that it is allegedly. They say it's allegedly. They allege that it's the soldiers that did the shooting on Monday.
Okay,
this
Emmanuel.
is what was removed from her leg. Yeah.
Okay, Emmanuel, just before I let you go, I need to confirm something. Did the end bad governance protest in Gaskiya Dan Magaji, did it go south? Was it violent? Probably that was why the Nigerian Army had to step in. That you would wonder where the police was as at that time. That had to be the army personnel that would do this.
Okay, Gambo, an ce wai shi zanga-zangan da ake yi na lumana, wai an yi fada ne a zanga-zangan domin akwai police. Me ya kaso jiji a cikin wannan batun? Wai an yi fada ne a zanga-zangan ne da aka kaso da wannan bullet din zai shiga kafan mama?
To mu dai mu sani ba, mu dai tana cikin ɗakin, tana kofar ɗaki tana zaune kawai. Aka ce an yi harbe kawai shine wannan abu ya zo ya faru. Mu tun dai ba ta fita ko kofar gida ne ba.
Kai baka sani ba. Akwai wanda zai ga mana ko an yi fada wannan a zanga-zangan gaskiya.
Emmanuel.
Dan samaru sun ce su ba su zanga-zanga ba. Ba wanda ya zanga-zanga ba. Okay, to shikenan. Okay, this man is going to tell us whether there was a violent.
Okay, just in about 30 seconds so that we can move on.
He's going to tell us. Okay. Ga mana an yi zanga-zanga, an yi fada a zanga-zanga.
To alhamdulillah mu dai gaskiya mu nan ba a fada ba. Saboda
why are you saying that there wasn't a fight? Sharp.
Wato ba a fada ba gaskiya. Tun ba wani abu da zai kasance a ce an yi na hargitsi ko na abu haka kawai. Abokai muka je shi ba wani
amma akwai wanda suka shigo suna sace muku wayoyi. Babu. An gama. Why are you saying that there was no fight? I still asking whether there are hoodlums that came in to collect their phones, steal their properties, loot their shops. He said there was nothing like that.
Okay.
Nothing like that. They all of a sudden they just heard gunshots and this happened.
Well, a lot of words we'll need to hear from the Nigerian military at this time to get more perspective to this. Emmanuel Bagudu, thank you for sharing the details with us. We'll keep tabs with you as you continue to investigate or interrogate this matter. Thank you so much. Let's move on now. Hundreds of police officers and security personnel have been deployed across major cities nationwide as organizers of the End Bad Governance protest prepare for a 1 million man march to culminate their 10-day rally. Protesters across the country are demanding a reversal of the fuel subsidy removal, an increase in the minimum wage to 250,000 naira, and an end to bad governance, among other issues. The organizing groups have threatened to shut down the entire country on Saturday to emphasize their demands, criticizing President Bola Tinubu's Sunday speech as inadequate. Sonyolu Juwon, national coordinator of the Take It Back movement, stated that the August 10 protest would mark a pivotal moment in the nationwide End Bad Governance in Nigeria campaign. Now, after a brief hiatus, the End Bad Governance protest in Lagos has ended, with organizers citing escalating violence and safety concerns as the primary reasons. On day 10, marking the final day of the demonstrations, News Central's Igbalani Yomoni visited several protest hotspots in Lagos to gauge public sentiment. Residents and remaining protesters alike share their views on whether the End Bad Governance movement achieved its intended goals. Well, we'll bring you details of that particular report later on or in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang has convened a town hall meeting with various youth groups in the state. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe reports that the agenda includes demands for the reversal of the fuel subsidy removal, a reduction in high electricity rates, and measures to alleviate the general economic hardships faced in Nigeria. The meeting at the Government House in Little Rayfield, Jos, includes Governor Mutfwang, his deputy, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, top government officials, and representatives from different youth groups across Plateau. Also in attendance are heads of the state's security agencies who have been instrumental in supporting the End Bad Governance movement. Further details on this town hall meeting will be provided in our upcoming bulletins. In the meantime, the state governor has further relaxed the curfew previously imposed on the Jos-Bukuru metropolis. The governor, Caleb Mutfwang, had initially set a 24-hour curfew on Sunday in response to violent protests and looting by hoodlums in Jos North Local Government Area, Plateau State. The curfew was later eased to permit some movement. According to a statement from the governor's Director of Press and Public Affairs, Gyang Bere, free movements will now be allowed between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. starting on Saturday. Away from that now to political matters, several elder statesmen in Nigeria and leaders of thought have also known as the patriots have called on President Bola Tinubu to commence the process of restructuring the nation in the interest of peace and unity. This was as they met with the president in Abuja, where they called for a new constitution that will reflect the wishes and yearnings of citizens in the country. Amadine Uyi reports.
The meeting was between Nigeria's elders of thoughts, also known as the patriots, with President Bola Tinubu. They called for the restructuring of the present system of governance in the country.
If Nigeria is to effectively tackle its myriad challenges and to achieve its potential as a politically stable democracy, it must restructure its present governance system to truly federal system.
They expressed confidence in the president's credentials as a pro-democracy advocate to take the lead towards achieving this task while making their request known to the president.
We have come to appeal to you to send to the National Assembly the President's executive bill, which would call for two important measures. First, the convening of a National Constituent Assembly with the mandate to produce a draft People's Democratic Constitution.
President Bola Tinubu promised to consider their request.
I've listened to you carefully. And this is not a group that you ignore. It's a group of patriots reflecting the heart and aspiration of the society.
He adds that all leaders must work towards ensuring peace among citizens.
Avoidance of chaos is necessary to build this country and move its aspiration across the line for the benefit of all of us.
The patriots also urged the president to dialogue with protesting youths over the End Bad Governance protests and mandate security operatives to end the use of force against the protesters. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Many thanks for staying with us. The main opposition, People's Democratic Party, has appointed former Osun State Governor Olagunsoye Oyinlola to lead a 25-member National Reconciliation Committee. The PDP has faced internal strife following its recent presidential primaries won by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. According to a statement from the party's National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, the decision to form the committee was made by the National Working Committee with approval from the National Executive Committee. The committee's inauguration date will be announced to all relevant parties. From the south to the east, Abia State Governor Alex Oti says the former Commissioner for Health, Ngozi Okoronkwo, was not found guilty of financial mismanagement, according to the report submitted by the investigative committee. Oti made this known during his monthly media chat at the banquet hall of the government house in Umuahia. He also directed the Commissioner for Lands and Housing, Chaka Chukwumerije, to resolve the crisis at Unity Estate in Umuahia South Local Government area, ensuring that allottees do not lose their allocations unjustly. The governor added that while the government is considering future engagements with some attractive institutions, it has not borrowed any money since he assumed office.
So, and we understand that government
on FM, Flow 94.9 FM, Family Love.
I work with News Central TV. Your Excellency, sometimes.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Ezechu. The Honorable Commissioner for Land and Housing is seated here, and he takes the assignment right away to get into the Ohia and ensure that the right thing is done. We do not tolerate lawlessness, and no one should have the right to go and pull down a building. Even if there is a dispute, there are channels to resolve disputes. People are not allowed to take the law into their hands. Before she resigned, the committee that was set up turned in its report. Going through the report, there was no financial impropriety established, but there were conducts that were not consistent with laid down policies and procedures. And since she offered to resign, the government decided to accept her.
Let's also tell you that a former commissioner for technical education in Delta State, Joan Onyemechi, who was kidnapped 10 days ago from her church in the state capital, Asaba, has regained her freedom. The kidnapping incident had resulted in the deaths of a policeman and a civilian. The spokesperson for the State Police Command, Bright Edafe, confirmed the former federal lawmaker's release but did not provide details. While reports indicated that the kidnappers had demanded a 1 billion naira ransom, it remains unclear whether the ransom was paid before she was released. Despite efforts in Nigeria to improve educational access, significant disparities remain between the male and female gender. Women, particularly in rural areas, are often faced with challenges that have led to alarmingly low literacy rates amongst the higher percentage of them in the country. News Central's Chidima Ona examines this issue in this report.
Posted by Statistens, revealed that women in northern Nigeria have the highest percentage of women who cannot read, with Sokoto leading the charge by 78.3%. According to analysts, this is partly a result of the belief in those areas that women are made for more domestic roles outside of the classroom or learning environment.
Women are treasured, but treasured in a very different way that affects their social emancipation, as it were, when you define that from a global context. So this is exactly the reason why illiteracy rate among women in the north will be significantly higher than those in the south.
Available reports, however, suggest that the future of learning in Nigeria may be at risk if access to education for all genders isn't prioritized and guaranteed.
I mean, I've had instances where the friends that are made, male, and then they would have their sisters. The male, we all went to higher education together. But the female, quite a number of them by 17, 18, they're married. So until we tackle this issue of child marriage, I'm not sure that we're going to see much growth in terms of the literacy rates.
While efforts are ongoing to entrench equal access to education for both genders, many Nigerians are clear on the value of education for women and young girls.
Education is valuable in terms of it helps us to do more than what the country has tagged women to be. Mainly just to get married and start bearing children and stuff. But it gives us more power. It enlightens us to know our rights. It enlightens us to know what to do in some certain situations. And mainly, if women are not important, God won't create them.
The same way you push hard for male child to go to school, to get educated and be informed, same way you should push for women also. We have women doing beautiful things in the society. We have we have and the likes of them. We are a lot of them that are doing fine in society.
While the campaign to bridge the learning gap between the male and female gender in Nigeria continues, the notable strides made by well-educated women in the country may be a testament that efforts in that direction are efforts in the right direction. In Lagos for News Central, Chidima Ona.
News now continues in West Africa, where Senegal's former ruling party has alleged that the new leadership is orchestrating a witch hunt following the recent appointment of several judges to replace those perceived as loyal to the previous regime. The statements from the Alliance for the Republic follows a meeting of the Supreme Council of the Judiciary, chaired by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, where several new judges were appointed to key positions. Faye's administration, which assumed office in April after a decisive electoral victory, has pledged to reform the system, improve living conditions for the Senegalese people, and ensure greater accountability. From other continents, we'll tell you that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says authorities remain on high alert this weekend amid concerns over potential far-right riots in English towns and cities. Starmer noted that the swift action by the criminal justice system, including judges issuing lengthy sentences to some rioters, has helped deter further violence. His remarks followed 2 nights of relative calm across England after a week of near-nightly unrest in over a dozen towns and cities, triggered by a deadly knife attack that claimed the lives of 3 children. And now, for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, good afternoon to you. You are at the site of one of the day's anti-racism and anti-fascism marches. What is the feeling like there?
Here, it's a different scene now from a couple of hours ago, where this area was absolutely packed with people at a Stand Up to Racism rally that was organised, taking place all across London. There's quite tight dispersal orders, so people who were here an hour ago have been moved on. And these protests are taking place up and down the country. Reports of protests taking place in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Manchester and Cardiff. And it's all about protesters standing up to racism, standing up to the right-wing riots that have taken place across the United Kingdom, mainly in England, and a few protests in Northern Ireland over the past week or so.
Okay, well then we'll see Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying that the UK must remain on high alert. I'd like to find out what the reasons are for that particular warning.
Absolutely. Today, a few things are happening. You do have these anti-racism protests. You actually do have some far-right protests planned as well. But it's also the start of the Football League. The Championship and some lower divisions are back playing football today. So you have lots of people travelling across the country. And football has traditionally been a target for people who like to cause trouble, who like to, when they are drunk and when they have taken drugs, engage in fights. And a lot of the far-right protests have turned out to be with that level of violence. So there's likely to be some overlap with all these elements: anti-racism protests, far-right protests, and people travelling to the football. Almost 6,000 specialist officers have been deployed up and down the country, so a heavy police presence to try and keep the peace with all these elements overlapping today.
And we are aware that the British monarch that has not been in camera and in public for a while now finally made some comments on this particular situation. Can you tell us what he said?
Yeah, the calls have been growing louder for King Charles III to say something about these protests and perhaps to unite the country. He has said that he praised the community spirit that has countered the aggression. That's referring to the anti-racism protest. He's asked to be updated every single day on what's been happening. And it's not the fact that the King has requested to keep across the topic shows perhaps how much concern he does have for these situations. Now, King Charles III at his coronation pledged to be a defender of all faiths. He had representatives of the Jewish and the Muslim communities as part of his coronation, and we know how strongly he feels about community projects. He can see what's happening on the streets, and he can see what's happening in communities up and down the country. Now, it's not that he will partake in some visits to some of the affected areas, but when things have quieted down for security concerns, and also because he understands the cost of security in those areas when he goes to visit. Now, we had a similar situation with riots in 2011. Then the Queen herself didn't go and do any visits afterwards, but King Charles III, when he was Prince Charles, did visit areas that were hit by riots afterwards to try and encourage community cohesion. So it's thought that he is very concerned about what is happening mainly in England.
Quite interesting and trying times in the UK right there. Afia Hagen, thank you so much for sharing the details with us. Away from that, we now tell you that Palestinians rallied in the West Bank city of Ramallah to denounce the Israeli strike that targeted a school housing displaced people in Gaza City, killing at least 93 individuals. Rescuers in Gaza said an Israeli airstrike on the religious school housing displaced Palestinians killed 93 people on Saturday as Israel's military accused militants of basing themselves there. Hamas denounced the dangerous escalation in the northern part of Gaza, which came after international mediators invited the warring sides to resume next Thursday talks towards a long-sought ceasefire and hostage release deal. Jordan's foreign ministry said the timing was an indication of Israel's efforts to obstruct and thwart the peace push. Now, Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has declared 3 days of national mourning following the crash of a plane in southeastern Brazil late on Friday, which resulted in the death of all 61 people on board. The airline operating the flight, Vopass, confirmed that all 57 passengers and 4 crew members died. The mayor of Vinhedo, a town in Sao Paulo state where the crash occurred, along with state officials, confirmed that there were no survivors. The aircraft was traveling from Cascavel in Paraná to Guarulhos International Airport in Sao Paulo. Brazil's Aeronautical Accidents Prevention and Investigation Center has launched an investigation to determine the cause of the crash. We also tell you that on Saturday, Moscow launched a counter-terror operation in 3 border regions adjacent to Ukraine to counter Kiev's largest cross-border offensive in over 2 years. On Tuesday morning, Ukrainian forces crossed into Russia's western Kursk region in a surprise attack, advancing several kilometers. In response, Russia deployed additional troops and equipment, including tanks, rocket launchers, and aviation units to halt the advance. Under Russian law, security forces and the military are granted extensive emergency powers during such operations. Ukrainian leaders have remained silent on the offensive, and the United States, Kiev's closest ally, was not informed of the plans beforehand. Let's talk business now. According to World Bank Group Finances, Nigeria's federal government is repaying $10.6 billion in loans obtained under former presidents Olusegun Obasanjo, late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and Goodluck Jonathan. Nigeria's domestic debt has been put at 65.65 trillion naira, while external debt stood at 56.02 trillion naira. Recall that in June 2024, the Debt Management Office said as of March 31, 2024, Nigeria's domestic and external debts stood at 121.67 trillion naira. Price of tomatoes have dropped by 58% in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, for the first time this year, bringing respite to households and reducing pressure on them. Recent market surveyed across Lagos shows that a big basket of tomatoes currently sells for 50,000 naira as against an average of 120,000 naira some months ago in Mile 12 Market in Lagos. A small basket of tomatoes now costs 6,500 naira against 13,000 naira in the period under review. Possibly this could ease inflation and cost of living issues if it continues and is also experienced across the nation. In the world of sports, as the IHF Women's Under-18 World Cup in China approaches, Nigeria's national Under-18 Women's Handball team is ready to face the challenge. Head coach Shitu Agbola expressed confidence in his players, citing their impressive track record of securing podium finishes in all 4 tournaments they have competed in. However, Coach Agbola has also voiced concerns about the lack of necessary support for the team. Team captain Esther Matthew echoed the coach's sentiments, emphasizing the need for greater backing to ensure the team's continued success.
I would like to put my words in 3 perspectives. First of all, the support from the Federation. I would really want to thank the Handball Federation. They've done beyond limits. They've exhausted themselves, I know. They've really been on these girls, giving all the support they can. That's on the Handball Federation of Nigeria. Then going to the Ministry of Sports and the government of Nigeria. In all sincerity, the government has not been encouraging. They've not supported these girls in any ramification, I can assure you that one. And in this China too, is the same story.
We have our president, and we are thankful to God for bringing him to us. And we are pleading to Nigerians, the ministry, to also help with financial support. Yeah, we actually, as a team, we don't have corporate wares, we don't have track and all, and we are going for.
Following Team Nigeria's disappointing performance at the Paris 2024 Olympics, Nigeria's Minister of Sports Development, John Eno, emphasized the importance of drawing lessons from their experience and preparing for the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. He made these remarks during a meeting with journalists at the Nigerian Embassy in France. In response, Nigerian athlete Peter Moreno has called for a thorough reform within the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, urging the ministry to remove those who are hindering the progress of the nation's athletics. Away from that, Kenya's marathon runner Eliud Kipchoge pulled out of the marathon race at the Paris 2024 Olympics. The former world record holder Kipchoge, who won gold in the 2016 Rio Games and in Tokyo 2021, pulled out due to what seemed like a hip injury gotten during the race. The 39-year-old withdrew just after the 30-kilometer mark, at which point it was 71st, more than 8 minutes off the pace. This put an end to his ambitious attempt at a third consecutive win. Kipchoge then turned to fans and handed over his shoes, bib and socks to supporters, receiving a rapturous reception. Refugee athlete Maniza Talash was disqualified for displaying the words "Free Afghan Women" on her outfits during an Olympic breaking battle in Paris. The Afghan, who was competing for the refugee Olympic team as B-Girl Talash, had the message emblazoned in large letters on a cape she wore in a pre-qualifying battle against India of the Netherlands as the dance sport made its Games debut. Talash lost but was later disqualified because political statements and slogans are banned on the field of play at the Olympics. Talash, who is originally from Kabul, lives in Spain and is one of the 37 athletes competing for the refugee team. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories again. Heavy security in major cities as End Bad Governance protest enters final day. Senegalese opposition has accused government of planning political witch hunts. We also told you that Brazilian government has declared a 3-day national mourning after 61 killed in plane crash. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.